the birth of a light. It began in silence, not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that feels like something is about to change. In the deserts of Arabia, in a city known as Mecca, a child was born who would one day transform the course of history. But at that moment, he was just a child. No crown, no power, no sign to the world of what was coming. His name was Muhammad. Even before his birth, his story carried loss. His father had already passed away. Before he could even see the face of his son, he was gone. And so, he entered this world without a father, raised by his mother, in a society where survival was never easy. The desert was harsh, life was uncertain, and strength was not optional. But sometimes, the strongest souls begin their journey in the quietest ways. As a child, he was sent to live among the Bedouins. This was a tradition, to grow strong, to learn resilience, to breathe the open air of the desert. But something about him felt different. Those around him noticed it. Calm presence, quiet dignity. Even as a child, he did not behave like others. There was a stillness in him, a sense of awareness beyond his years. But life did not become easier. At a very young age, he lost his mother, and just like that, the little stability he had was gone. He was now alone, an orphan, in a world that was not kind to the weak. But his story was not meant to break him. It was meant to shape him. He was taken in by his grandfather, a man of respect, a man who saw something in the boy. He cared for him, protected him, gave him a place in a world that could have easily forgotten him.
But fate had more to say. Not long after, his grandfather also passed away, and once again, he stood at the edge of loss. Another goodbye, another silence, another moment that could have broken him. But it didn't, because sometimes the people who are chosen for something greater are tested early. He was then taken in by his uncle, a man who did not have much, but gave what he could. Life with his uncle was simple. No luxury, no ease. He worked from a young age, taking care of animals, walking long distances, learning responsibility before most children even understood the word. But this is where something important began. He learned people, not just their words, but their intentions, their honesty, their deception. Because Mecca was not just a city, it was a center of trade, a place where people came and went, different tribes, different beliefs, different ways of living. And in that environment, he observed everything. He spoke little, but listened deeply, and slowly, a reputation began to form. People trusted him, not because he asked for it, but because he earned it. They called him Al-Amin, the Trustworthy. In a world full of conflict, he became someone people could rely on, someone who did not lie, did not cheat, did not betray, and that made him different. As he grew older, he traveled with his uncle. Trade journeys, long roads, endless deserts, exposure to the world beyond Mecca. He saw cultures, he saw injustice, he saw how power worked, and more importantly, he saw how people suffered. There was wealth, but also poverty. There was power, but also cruelty. And deep inside, something began to grow. A question, a search. Because even though he lived among them, he never fully became like them. There were practices in society that he could not accept. Injustice, unfairness, idolatry. And instead of following blindly, he stepped back. He observed. He reflected. And as the years passed, his character only grew stronger. Honest, calm, respected. Then came a moment that would change his life in a different way. A woman named Khadijah, a successful businesswoman, strong, wise, independent. She had heard of him, his honesty, his character, and she entrusted him with her business. A decision that would bring them closer. He managed her trade with integrity. No deception, no shortcuts, and that impressed her. Because in a world where trust was rare, He stood out, and eventually, she made a choice. She proposed marriage, not because of status, not because of wealth, but because of who he was, and he accepted. Their marriage was not just a union. It was stability, support, understanding. For the first time in his life, he had peace, a home, partner, a sense of belonging. But even in that peace, something inside him remained restless, because his journey was not meant to stay ordinary. He began to spend time alone, away from the noise of the city, away from people, in a cave known as Hira. There, in silence, he would reflect, think, search for answers, because deep inside, he knew something was missing, not in his life, but in the world around him. And as the days passed, that feeling grew stronger, a sense that something was coming, not visible, not clear, but real, very real. And one day, in that quiet cave, everything would change.